About time.
Somebody say it. Awesome. All right, guys, we are live. Welcome to the general session of the John Lavenia Success Mastermind Network. I am your host for the day, Stuart Wilde. I'm a student of mindset, an entrepreneur, and I'm glad to be here with you guys to share and discuss mindset and success concepts. Couple things, today's topic is close to my heart, and I want to say is something that I've been studying, researching for decades of my life, and as time has gone on, research, scientific studies, things like that have helped shed some light and helped me to connect some of the dots about today's subject. And so I'm excited to share this with you guys as it's sort of a sounding board for some of the things that I think and feel and believe in, and we'll see what you guys think about that stuff too. We've all heard John say that thoughts are things, right? We've all read it in Think and Grow Rich and other books about mindset and success. But I wonder if everybody really understands that in their heart, or really feels that, or really believes it, because I think it's funny. John used to talk about, or every once in a while he'll say, certain things are woo-woo, right? And there's few things that are more woo-woo than thoughts or things, and your thoughts create your reality, right? So this is something that I've been working on for a long time. And to me, when I hear thoughts or things, I'm a science guy, and immediately, like, I want to know, how that works, or what does that really mean? Is it psychological? Is it only internal, or is it external too? Is it backed by science, or is it magic, or is it quantum physics? What's up with all this stuff? And so again, today's topic is the culmination of a lot of years of research and study. And again, recent studies have helped me to connect some dots and help me to develop a deeper understanding of the nature of reality and my nature and my relationship to the universe, let's say. I want to preface today's session by saying I know and believe in my heart that these mindset principles work. They're based on natural laws and universal laws, and that we don't need to know the how. But I'm the kind of person that likes to know the how, right? So I believe in miracles, I believe in magic, but I want to know how those things work. And I think it helps me in terms of my mindset and my practice if I understand some of these things, right? I may not understand all of the how, but I kind of want to know some of the how. And my goal today is maybe to share, some of the how with you, some of my personal insights and understandings about our relationship to the world around us, to remind us that we are all cause, whether we want to be or not, or even aware of it. And so if we are cause, whether we're aware of it or not, why not be intentional about how we can be more cause and have a positive effect on our lives, our relationships, our businesses, and the world around us. And then finally, I hope that today's session will empower us all to take bold, decisive, high integrity actions towards achieving our goals and realizing our dreams. So that's kind of my little preface here, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we'll chat about some stuff here. All right. You guys with me? Thumbers on the screen? Okay. Today's topic is triune, right? Or the Trinity, in honor of Trinity Lavenia, right? So thoughts are things, feeling is the secret, and words have power. I'll start with one of our favorite quotes from Napoleon Hill. And honestly, since chapter 1, you guys, I've really been wanting to dive into this subject. So hopefully it'll be something that we can all wrap our heads around. Truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that, when they are mixed with a definite sense of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches or other material objects. And I would sort of add to that and say anything that we want in our lives, right? It doesn't have to be about material goods, doesn't have to be about wealth or riches. It can be about creating any kind of situation or circumstance in our lives. Cool Bob Proctor quote, thoughts become things. If you see it in your mind, you will hold it in your hand. I want to talk about a couple things here before we get into the meat of it. We talk a lot about the law of attraction, right? But I want to talk for a minute about the law of vibration, okay? This is also known as the principle of vibration. This is one of the 7 hermetic principles that goes back thousands of years that somehow made it through the millennium into business success mindset philosophy, okay? So the law of vibration states that nothing rests. Everything is in motion. Everything vibrates. Everything is energy. Even matter is energy that's just vibrating at certain specific frequencies, meaning the same stuff that makes a rock, makes a feather, makes a piece of wood, makes water, right? And so matter is energy that is just vibrating at different frequencies. And guess what? Our thoughts and our words create thought waves and sound waves, which are vibrations, right? So this is one of the ways in which we can be cause, or which we are cause in our lives. The other thing I want to mention, and this is just a concept I'd love for you guys to just kind of keep in your head as we go through the session today. Let's talk about resonance, okay? So the root is from resonare in Latin, which really means to resonate or to sound again, okay? And so the 2 types of resonance are sympathetic resonance, which can also be called vibratory resonance. And for those of you that play musical instruments, you know, maybe Ingrid or anybody else wants to weigh on it on this later, but this is a principle where, you know, if you pluck a string on a guitar, right, then all the other strings start to vibrate, right? That's sympathetic resonance, okay? Let's think about how that principle might apply when we start talking about our thoughts and our words and things like that, okay? And then the other type of resonance is called magnetic resonance, and this is where one magnetic field has an influence on another magnetic field. Okay, just keep that in your mind as we're cruising through. There's magnetite in our brains. Did you guys know that? You guys know what magnetite is? Magnetite is ferrous oxide, iron filings, Fe3O4. Do you guys remember doing the iron filing experiments where you would take a magnet in school and you would shake the little iron filings, and then you would sort of shake the piece of paper or whatever, and all those iron filings would arrange themselves around the magnet in the lines of the magnetic field that magnet is producing, okay? So check this out. Every cell in our body has now been found to have magnetite. All animals have magnetite, even to like the single cell bacteria have magnetite, okay? Now what's interesting is that the highest concentrations of magnetite in our body are in the human brain, okay? And the highest concentrations of magnetite in the human brain are in the brainstem and the cerebellum. And what's interesting is these are where our most basic functions come from, our involuntary and our sort of primary voluntary functions. So our heartbeat, respiratory rate, blood pressure, things like that all come from the brainstem. And then the cerebellum is like rudimentary movement, motion, things like that. So the magnetite in our brains has now been shown to give us superpowers. Okay, so there's something called biomagnetism or magnetoreception. And they did scientists did some studies not too long ago in the 90s where they took a human and they put little EEG wires, and they essentially shut that person off from the magnetic field of the earth. And then those people were able to actually detect the magnetic field of the earth everywhere, or detect magnetic fields, let's say, everywhere that they would put a magnetic field, and people were, you know, in blindfolds, and they would nod or they could point to where those magnets were being turned on into this room. So it's really pretty interesting. So the magnetite in our brain turns our brain into receivers and transmitters. This is where we believe that geolocation comes from. This is how whales know how to spawn, you know, and travel and migrate in certain places. This is how birds know how to fly south for the winter and things like that. And it's also what will give some of us what we call a sense of direction, right? I'd love to hear if anybody feels like they have a sense of direction or lack thereof later. This is also considered to be the root of ESP and the sixth sense, telepathy, So magnetite in your brain is pretty cool. And we'll talk a little more about that as we go. Okay. So when we talk about brain waves, a lot of people think that when you say thought waves, you're talking about brain waves. And what I think is interesting is that brain waves are really pretty localized. Okay, brain waves are neural waves that happen from electro stimulation throughout your brain. Those waves can be measured by an EEG, an electroencephalogram, right? And they don't really travel outside your brain, okay? And different frequencies in your brain, right, of your brain waves can correspond to different emotional states. You guys have heard of alpha, beta, gamma, delta, theta brainwave states. Some are more heightened states. Some are more sleep states and things like that. But what's really interesting is that those neural waves, let's see if I can go back up. Those neural waves, along with the magnetite in your brain, actually help your brain to generate its own magnetic field, okay? Your brain's electromagnetic field extends beyond your brain. And then that electromagnetic field actually generates electromagnetic thought waves, which are long waves that travel out into the universe. So when you have a thought, it doesn't just stay in your head, right? These thoughts that we have, they continue out into the universe and they interact with the fabric of the universe, okay? Check this out. Scientists can now detect your emotions via Wi-Fi externally, okay? So this is where technology is at now, is that they can tell whether you're angry, sad, fearful, anxious, things like that, all based on Wi-Fi detection of your thought waves. It's pretty amazing. Another thing that they learned was that our brain's electromagnetic field can be influenced by external sources, and whether that's a magnet, right? So other electromagnetic fields, this is where we were talking about magnetic resonance, right? Or other people, right? Other people's thoughts, right? And so what's interesting is if our brain's electromagnetic field can be influenced by external sources, then that means that when our thoughts leave our brain or our mind in the form of waves through vibration, right? They interact with and reshape the fabric of the universe to create our reality. And I put the law of attraction there, LOA. But the other thing that's important to think about is that our thoughts actually do affect and influence other people. And that implies a certain responsibility, right, for our thoughts, because we aren't affecting other people. And this is where last night, maybe one of you guys can remember the exact quote from our chapter in Think and Grow Rich. I tend to use the term imperfect exchange for the good of all, but I know Napoleon Hill has a similar thing, right, for the benefit of all parties involved or something like that, because you don't want to usurp anybody else's will, right? So we have a responsibility. And I used the term a while back about owning the bullet. And I don't know if anybody's ever heard this term, but in firearms, you know, once you shoot a bullet, you are responsible. You own that bullet until it hits the ground, right? And so just like that bullet, we are responsible for our thoughts until they stop. And guess what? They never stop. They go out into the universe forever. Cool little graphic, right? Electromagnetic field of the brain, thought waves, things like that. I'm such a visual person, you guys, that these kinds of things really help me in my own practice. I got a thumbs up from Nancy. Because yeah, it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, thoughts are things, and you know, we read that, you know, and John told us, and Napoleon Hill tells us, and all this stuff. But really, to me, I want to know, how is that? How are my thoughts things? How do I really affect and impact the world around me? Okay, so that's thoughts. Then I want to talk about feelings for a minute, okay? This is crazy stuff. A lot of this is new research, and maybe some of you guys have heard some of these things, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts on this are, okay? So check this. The heart has more receptors from the brain than to the brain. Now, if you think about that for a minute, it's very interesting, okay? Because the brain sends messages to the heart, but not just the basic messages about heartbeat and rhythm and things like that, those involuntary things. But there's this incredible communication that goes back and forth from the heart to the brain. The heart has 40,000 neurons, which is just amazing. So the heart is just more than a muscle that pumps blood, okay? The heart actually generates its own electromagnetic field. Okay, I'll tell you, let me go back a sec. So the thoughts that we have, and you guys understand this, right? The thoughts that we have affect our heart, they affect our emotion, right? And this goes back to like a really primal, let's say, defense mechanism, right? And so if we see something that we're afraid of, the saber tooth or whatever, then your brain sends a message to your heart to get it to beat faster, right? When you're anxious or fearful, you know what that feels like in your heart, right? Versus love or happiness or contentment or tranquility. So check this, the heart generates its own electromagnetic field, and the heart's electromagnetic field is 60 times stronger than that of the brain's electromagnetic field. And I read somewhere that it can be several thousand times more of intensity than the brain's electromagnetic field. So again, just blows me away. Okay, so our mind and our thoughts affect our feelings in our heart, and our heart has an electromagnetic field that generates this essentially luminous bubble around us. I read that the electromagnetic field of the heart extends 5 to 6 feet out beyond us. So imagine that we're with somebody else, right? This is a really clear example of how our biomagnetism affects the world around us and other people, okay? I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is David Dawkins' emotional frequency chart in Hertz, going from shame down at the bottom, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, right? You start getting into the green zone there. Willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. If anybody has experience with any of this stuff, I'd love to hear about it. From what I understand, the love frequency is like 536 hertz. Very interesting. Actually was going to bust out. We got this cool tuning fork kit. I'm sure some of you guys have seen tuning forks, right? That's a super cool thing to play around with resonance. But anyway, this is David Dawkins' emotional frequency chart. And I'll post all this stuff in the Facebook or somewhere for you guys. This is a depiction of the electromagnetic field of the heart, right? Because it kind of reminds me of the electromagnetic field of the earth, right? And when we talked about polarity and positive, negative poles, and how these electromagnetic currents create a field around our body, okay? And so to me, this is a very clear visual hit on how we are able to affect things around us. Now remember that these electromagnetic fields don't just stop there. They then generate long waves that go out into the universe forever. So here's a cool example of like, well, guess what? When you're interacting with somebody, right, your bioelectromagnetic field is influencing somebody else's, theirs is influencing yours, right? So there's this interesting synergy and interconnectedness between all things, right? So that's heart fields, okay? Now I want to get into the word for a minute, okay? This obviously everybody knows this quote from John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. A couple things about the word. You guys, I'm sure, have heard of the word logos, right? In terms of Christianity, right? And the word. But in ancient Greek, there's a concept of logos, and then there's also a concept of rhema. Okay, logos is the written word, right? And so when you hold a copy of the Bible, right, that's the logos, right? It's the written word. The rhema is actually the spoken word, right? And so I want to draw a distinction between what you might call scripting, right? So if, we talked about a mindset hack a couple of weeks ago where, you would just write stuff down, or maybe you have written down affirmations, and that's sort of the logos version versus spoken affirmations or prayers, right? This crazy book from 1928 came my way in my research the other day. And Word is Your Wand. And it's really this amazing book from 1928, so even before Think and Grow Rich. And if anybody wants, I'll drag it in the chat, but it's super cool. There's a cool affirmation in there that reminded me of Therese and reminded me of Ego and it's the swollen purse affirmation, right? And it's like you just envision like a wallet that's just overflowing with bills and change and whatever. But this book, Your Word is Your Wand, there's really like one chapter of sort of written, chapter stuff, but then the rest is all affirmations for each, for every different situation, affirmation for every situation. You guys will appreciate it. So, that brings me to think about mantras, right? And so when we repeat spiritual mantras over and over again, right, they help to change our vibration, they help to change our electromagnetic fields. And then that brings me to the Om or the Aum, right? And so Om, O-M is sort of a bastardization of the ancient Sanskrit, which is another triune, right? It's a three-part mantra. There's the Ah, the U, and the right? And if you remember a few weeks back, John was talking about when he wound up doing like a Muktananda meditation retreat or something like that, and they had them do the three sounds of the Aum, and those three sounds of the Aum are supposed to mimic the sounds of creation, right? So our words are in fact sound waves, right? Sound waves are vibration, and so my premise here is that words are things, just like thoughts are things, right? Now thoughts may be radio waves, whereas words are sound waves, right? But there's still waves that go out and have an impact and have an effect on the world around us. And those, just like our thoughts, right? They can have a positive and or negative impact or effect on us and those around us. And I think it's important to just acknowledge the power of words, and that words can unleash the raw sheer power of creation, whether you're talking about the logos or the word in the Bible, or words of power or prayer, or the name of God in Kabbalah, the Tetragrammaton, that kind of thing, blows me away. So this is cool stuff. This is one of my favorite things of all time. You guys know the Dr. Masaru Emoto and the water crystal experiment. If you haven't seen this, and again, I'm doing my best not to infringe on any copyrights here, so I don't want to show, videos or any of that kind of stuff, but I really encourage you guys to look up Masaru Emoto's water crystal experiment. And what he did was he took glasses of water and or little samples of water and essentially infused them with intent and thought. And what he found was when they froze those water crystals, that depending on the intent behind the word, that those water crystals would form in different configurations, right? And I only put the nice ones here, right? So you have compassion, thank you, wisdom. This is what these things look like. How cool is that, right? Truth, joy, love, eternal, right? Look at the perfection and the sacred geometry in these shapes, right? Now, if I were to pull up sort of the converse of this, or the inverse of the converse of this, then you would see things like what hate looks like, what fear looks like, what anger looks like. And as you might imagine, it don't look like that, right? And if you've seen some of those pictures, the ones that are hate and fear and anger, they are disfigured, twisted versions of perfection, right? It's really amazing. So if you haven't seen any of this, it'll blow your mind. Cymatics is another thing. Does anybody know what cymatics are? Cymatics is so cool to me. Cymatics is the effect of vibration, namely sound, on matter. A lot of people, including myself, believe that this is the mechanism by which matter rearranges itself and coalesces into various different forms. I've been to like children's museums. Anybody ever go to like those Explora museums where you take your kid and they got all these cool little interactive experiments and exhibits and things like that? There's one specifically on cymatics where they'll take a metal plate and they'll take sand or any kind of, just particulate, and they'll hook up electrodes to that metal plate. And there's a dial that can adjust the frequency and the amplitude of the electrical current that's going through that plate. And as you go through the numbers, as you go through the dials, You go from chaos and just random bouncing pieces of sand and matter to, believe it or not, like all of the platonic solids. All of these shapes are all formed by sound vibrating through matter. Blows me away. Look up cymatics. There's all kinds of great videos. I remember being at one of these exhibits and playing around with the dial, and you get like triangles and hexagrams and octagons and all these, all the platonic solids. But then at a certain point, you hit a certain frequency, and like the matter jumps off of these plates and forms these like shapes, like dragons and creatures and all forms of matter. And what those things look like to me were nebula. Okay, I want to show you this here. Okay, so this is a picture of the Cat's Eye Nebula in space, right? Now these things are light years, thousands of light years apart, right? I mean, this is like bigger, like the Earth you couldn't even see as a pinpoint in this nebula. And so what's fascinating to me is that in the universe, you have giant celestial objects that collide with each other that are all electromagnetic bodies like the Earth, right? Guess what? Black holes will even collide. And when black holes collide, and it takes a long time for those black holes to spin around each other, but when they come together, it emits these incredible gravitational waves that go out through the universe, like in ways that we just can't even understand, right? And this is how celestial bodies influence and affect each other. I swear that when I saw these kinetic experiments, that it looked to me like this kind of stuff, and it really clicked into me like, wow, man, this is maybe the way that things in the universe, solar systems, planets, gas clouds, all these things are formed. So anyway, just food for thought, let's say. One of my favorite Goddard quotes: "There is nothing more important than developing your imagination to transform your life from the inside world of your thoughts and feelings to the outside world of your results and manifestations." One last quote from our friend Gautama Buddha: "However many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act upon them," right? So as much as we talk about thoughts and manifestation, right, we all know that we still need to take bold, decisive action to achieve our goals and realize our dreams. Cool picture, that blows me away. Again, visuals, man, I'm all about it, right? You can see the little matrix numbers and all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, you guys, I'm going to stop my screen share. I went under a half hour today, you guys. Woohoo! Nice. So I know this is a lot, and I know that there's a lot of information to unpack in there. But I know that all of you have thought about this kind of thing, and I'd be interested to hear not only what you think about my take on some of this stuff, but what your own take on it is. Or maybe you just like, you know what? I don't care. I don't need to know how it works, and that's how I roll. So I'm going to open the floor, see what you guys think. All right. I see my friend Bill. How you doing, buddy?
Stuart, that was awesome. It's something that I have long been interested in. I've just put 2 books in the chat there for people. One's by Professor David Eagleman, called Incognito, and it is about the neurology of the brain and also how your brain tells lies to you because it pattern matches throughout your life. And whilst you may swear that Stuart's coat is green today or shirt is green, it could be blue. Depends on the incident, depends on the intake of your brain. And the other one is The Untethered Soul. I'm sure some of you probably do know it. It's pretty deep in the connection between the heart and the mind, and it sits right there where you were saying about the neurons and that, and the electric connection between the brain and the heart. It's pretty fascinating. I mean, it explains an awful lot of how you can sense somebody's in your space, how you can sense something's not right. The ironic thing I would say is that sometimes if you're, and Mark will understand this, and you will, Stuart, as well, is when you're lying somewhere camouflaged and somebody could be standing right on top of you and they don't realize you're there. So maybe they're not in tune with the planet as much as they should be. So it's pretty awesome stuff, and it's pretty powerful stuff. And I think we all should learn a lot from it and listen to it a lot more. Thanks, Stuart. That was just out of this world, really.
Oh, thank you, Bill. Your comment on perspective, right? I think that's so critical because everybody's experience is different, right? We could sit in a circle and put a common object in the middle of the circle, and based on where you're sitting in the circle and how the object is positioned, or what your thoughts are about it, right? You're going to have a totally different experience of that object. And so, yeah, perspective, I think is critical on all this. So thank you, man. Thanks for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks for your thoughts. I'm feeling them. I feel them. Nicola, how are you?
Hello, good. Wow, thank you for that. That's amazing insight into how your mind works. Fascinating. Loved it.
My mind.
Yeah. No, it's right up my street. I'm similar to you, not to the same extent, but I like to understand how things work and the science behind it. And there was just one thing I thought I would share. It was a few years ago when I first got introduced to kind of some of this stuff. And I was a bit skeptical at first, didn't quite believe it. And I don't know if you've come across a rice test. Has anyone heard of that? No. So what it is, if you look at it on YouTube, you'll see it. It was all about the power of your words and the vibration of them. So the test was to put, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 jars of rice in a jar, and one, I'm going to sound like I'm an absolute lunatic here, but one was labeled good thoughts and one was labeled bad. So every morning for 30 days, I had to speak to these jars of rice in either a positive, uplifting, kind of healthy thoughts, or angry, depressive and down thoughts. And then over the course of the month, the test was, what does it do to the rice? And at that point, it changed my views of everything, because by the end of the 30 days, the bad jar was bad and the rice had gone black, but the good jar was still good and the rice looked as healthy as the day it went in it. And I was just, at that point, I was sold. So I've been quite fascinated by it ever since.
That's great. That's a bite on the water crystal experiment. And I actually, now that you mention this, I remember seeing people do this. And when you say the bad rice that you shame or scold or tell it it's bad or tell it that you don't like it or whatever, did it get moldy? Did it get all black and rotten and nasty, right? And then the other rice was like, like it had never been touched or whatever.
Yeah, it's exactly that. If you want to have your neighbours think you're an absolute lunatic talking to glasses of rice every morning, give it a try. But I thought I'd share that because at that point I was just convinced by the power of it. And there's actually, there's one more just come to mind. So I've been on a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat. I don't know if you've come across him, but he talks a lot about this. It's all in his teachings. He teaches a lot about meditation, but the science behind it. And one of the things he talks about, we lost Stuart. Is everyone else still there? Yes, I think everyone else is moving. Oh, he's back.
Sorry, I live rural.
One of the things he talks about is the heart center. And I think you kind of covered that really well, about the amount of frequency that we have in our heart and how wide it spreads. And one of the things, because people are coming from all over the world to these retreats, it was in Malta, he asks people to do beforehand is when you're going through the airport on your way, if you can really focus on your heart center, and there's lots of techniques you can do to expand it, and then go through the senses, it can sometimes detect the amount of energy coming from your heart. And I think there was one lady in the audience who had actually managed to set off the sensors, and they can see where in the body it's picking up that energy, and it was picking it all up from a heart center. I mean, How amazing is that?
I love that. All that stuff reinforces to me these things that we're talking about, right? And again, not that we need to understand how all these things work in order, to have these things work. But I think depending on the kind of person you are, for me, I've always been a how does it work? What makes that tick? Whatever. Take apart the toaster, take apart the VCR, whatever. As a kid. And I just feel like I try to go through life with that same spirit, right? And this stuff fascinates me. And I have to say that while I've been researching, studying these things for much of my adult life, being a part of this mastermind, right, has really helped spark a newfound interest in these things. And I've been revisiting, as I'm sure many of you guys have, revisiting a lot of topics that, let's say I haven't thought about in a while, before we started these calls with John. So I'm grateful for that, because it's helped me to come to whole new understandings. And Nicola, I'm glad to hear that resonated with you, especially because you're doing the meditation sessions and things like that. So that really validates a lot of what I'm thinking, and thanks for that. Yeah. What's up, guys? Anybody else? Are we gonna call it early today? Was that too much? What? Come on. How does the world work, you guys? What? Mark, what's up, my brother?
Okay, Stuart, I'll jump in here. What the heck? And after what Nicola just said, I think what I'm going to do is get a couple of jars and then stick them right on the kitchen the kitchen window. We have like this half plane window, and it's right across from the neighbors. They can probably look across part of our property, and maybe they can watch me while I'm yelling at one of the glasses, and have the other one on the other side where I'm holding it like it's like kissing it, and then they'll go, yeah, that guy is definitely lost it. I mean, where's that guy at? So I think I'm going to give this a shot, just see what happens. And seriously, give it a shot, and I'll see if I walk out. I don't know how long this takes, Nicola, but maybe in a week or two or a month or whatever it takes, come in with the 2 jars and go,
sure.
Here they are, and see if anybody's called the cops on me yet. So.
Can I just say one thing there? I forgot, sorry to interrupt, but what it also taught me is it's not just the external jars that it impacts, or whoever you're talking to. Can you imagine what that's doing inside of yourself if you use that language to yourself? If that's what you can do to some rice in a jar, what is that doing to the inside of your body? So that was...
Yeah, and I see it just as another good way to kind of vent and, get it out and get it released, and, on both sides. So, I'm going to give this a shot. You gave me a great idea. Thanks, Nicola.
Oh my God. Not only do I want a picture of those jars, I want a picture of you yelling at the jar, Mark.
I think you guys want to see that.
Thank you. Yeah. And, Nicola, you made a really good point there about, the effects that our thoughts have externally. But yeah, imagine how easy it is to poison ourselves with negative, harmful thoughts, right? This goes back to the mental diet that we've been talking about, for a while now. What was I going to say? I don't know, but I'm going to move on to the next one. So thank you for your input. And if I remember what I was going to say, I'll jump back in. Mark, are you good? Can I lower your hand, brother? Done. All right. Nikki, how are you, Nikki? What's going on with you?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. I'm just going to, it was absolutely fantastic. I love that. The combination of the science, which I got a bit of a background in, and also just this resonance thing. So resonance, I don't know if people go into large buildings, or when you go to a concert or something like that, you might hear an instrument resonate in that area, because the instrument's producing a note, which is a frequency. Excuse me, and that frequency causes other materials on the same frequency to resonate at the same time as well. So my daughter, I've told you sings. So, you know, at the end of a song and you've got a lovely long note, and if that catches on the resonance in the building, it's beyond being a musical note. It's becomes something else because it's causing those vibrations around you. And I just think that that's a big part of how music affects mood and, you know, just can get to us. It's not just about the notes, it's about what we can experience through it. That was my one bit that I wanted to say. So it's really, that's what the architects and designers have to think about, that when they're building spaces for performance in. I just always think that's very interesting. And my last little thing is I've got two. One, I can, I've got a little, if anyone's got young children, I've got good experiments about how to make crystals at home, and also to get the iron filings out of cereal. I used to do that with my sort of year 8, and they get it out, and you think, oh, Weetabix is going to be really healthy. It's like all bran. No, Rice Krispies has got the highest iron, so eat the junk. That's it.
Are you saying that you can take a magnet and wave it over breakfast cereal?
Well, no, you have to crush them, and then it's a very small experiment. But yes, you can take it out, and then you put it on a tissue, and you see that there's less come out of one cereal than there has come out of the other. So there you go.
Wow,
that's very interesting.
Nikki, your comment about music and sound reminded me of the concept of the music of the spheres. Has anybody heard of such a thing? Right? And I don't know if anybody has literally heard such a thing. I've been out in the wilderness, you know, very quiet, meditative, communicative with nature, let's say, and things were so still and so quiet that I felt like I could hear every sound in the universe all at once. And right, to me, this is what the music of the spheres is literally the symphony of the universe, right? And celestial bodies ringing and singing and chiming and everything all at once. And I don't know if anybody's ever had that experience, but that was like a tear bringer for the llama guy, for sure. Thank you, Nikki.
You're welcome.
My friend Jamie Young, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Hi, all. First of all, when this call is over, I'm going to go downstairs and try to pin some notes to my refrigerator with Rice Krispies. That scares the living you-know-what out of me. That's an amazing set of facts, Nikki. That's crazy. The other thing is, Nicola, what your comment about can you imagine what's going on, what you're doing to your insides as you are maybe negative, you think negative thoughts or treat yourself in a negative way. I mean, how many of us, you know, do something really in our mind, really absent-minded, and you go, you idiot, or that was so stupid. How could you be so stupid? You're a moron. You know, all those words that come to you, and how that can affect your insides. That's very eye-opening. And I don't think we think of it that way. Rather than saying to yourself, I'll get it. I'll do better next time. I'll get it right the next time. Let me research and see how I can get it better. And that one comment, Nicola, is I'm going to carry that so much forward for me to reverse that thought process. And Mark and I are going to have a contest. We're going to talk later about who can turn the rice black first, and we're gonna post it. We might even do daily or weekly. We'll just show, and anybody else that wants to jump in here. I think
I love it. We should do the 30-day rice challenge.
Yeah.
Stuart, sorry, just one thing. I just wanted to see which of the you two, Jamie and Mark, who arrives back here in a straitjacket.
Yeah, right. Right. So if we do this in 30 days, I might be showing my rice from like behind bars, or, you know, there's bars on my window, or I'm like this. Yeah, exactly. I'd opt for Mark. That to happen to Mark first, because all my blinds are shut. Nobody knows what I do in here. Just kidding. Anyway, thanks, Nicola. That was great. Can
I just add one thing to that? I've started. It's funny you should mention that, because I'm writing some affirmation cards. I'm in the middle of designing them, and that is one of them, because I think that's a big thing that a lot of people just aren't aware of, how they speak to themselves. So one affirmation which might be useful is I talk to myself as if I would talk to my best friend. Great. That's strong. I just can't tell you that whole mindset.
You know, I don't think there's anybody else harder on me than me when I make a mistake. It's just, you know, I'm so disrespectful. Shame on me. So onward and upward. Thanks for that.
Nice. You know what, Jamie, that reminded me of what I was going to say before that I forgot. And so going back to Nicola's comment about, you know, being careful of what we say to ourselves and imagine what that does to us on the inside, right? And so I don't know if you guys are as careful with your words as I try to be or as I am, but there are certain things that just I have a visceral revulsion or repulsion to even saying, right? The H word, I really try not to use at all, right? And a lot, you know what I mean when I say the H word, right? And so, yeah, our words are important, and not only do they have vibrations, right? But you know, what is it in As a Man Thinketh? He says that negative thoughts will kill a person as surely as any bullet, right? So thank you for that. All right, let's see, Kim, how you doing, Kim? What are you thinking about today?
Hi guys, how's everybody doing?
All right.
Good. Thinking about quite a bit actually. The words, our words, are so powerful, and I don't know who suggested this, but someone suggested putting your affirmations if you have a recorder on your phone. And so I did that last week, and I woke up this morning and I played that, and I thought, holy cow, that's really powerful. I mean, it was like, is that me? Is that me saying that? So I just want to say that our words are so powerful, because it just like, I mean, it resonated within me so strongly. And then a couple other things in regards to the words. And then I want to talk about the sound, what Nikki said about the sound. So this weekend I was at a conference with a friend, and the final day was in this huge, big prayer tent. And she said, well, you know, it's going to be really cold and we have to dress warm. And so we did it. And she said, but, you know, she said, the tent kind of leaks in places. So make sure you have an umbrella. And she said, you know, we don't want to get leaked on. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to get leaked on. I said, that tent's not going to leak on me. And do you know, no lie, she sat right next to me and that tent leaked on her because she spoke those words. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. No joke. But anyway, so I just want to say that about the power of our words. And then as far as the note and the resonance, you know, the whole, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but in the conference, I find it interesting that you're talking about this, because a gentleman that played Friday night, he literally had, this is such a powerful story. And if I can share this with you too, hopefully it will play. And if it doesn't play, you guys give me a thumbs down and I'll stop it. But it's about a 55-second clip, but he was on stage and he was talking to the musicians, and he was just saying how when you are in worship, if you will, and you are playing the music, he said, don't think about the notes, don't think about the chords, think about, you know, that the sound. And he said, think about, you know, getting to that point where it's resonating, or whatever the word is I'm trying to say, Nikki or Stuart, you know, he said, and when you get to that point, it just takes you to another level. And so he played that night and we were just like, holy cow. But what you need to understand about him playing that night is he had COVID 2 months ago, and he was literally in the hospital on his deathbed. And this was like a total miracle. And they came in, they said he was circling the drain, and they wanted to give him 15 liters of oxygen. So any medical people in here, that's a lot of oxygen, right? Like 15 liters. And that's what he said was 15 liters. And he just had people start praying for him. And literally he like said, no, I don't want the oxygen. He says, I'm coming out of this. Within 24 hours, he was out of the hospital. And this man was at that conference playing this trumpet. So and you know, it takes a lot of breath, right, to play a trumpet. So I want to just play this because this is the same man that was talking about the sound. Okay. And this is so powerful. So hopefully you guys can hear this. If you can't, give me a thumbs down and I'll stop it. But okay. I won't even play anymore. I'm sure you get the gist. He played, I recorded like 55 seconds. I was just like, wow. So
that was a trumpet, Kim?
That was a trumpet.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah,
and that was him alone playing that trumpet. I was like, what? Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And so I would have to say everything you're saying about that sound level and that reverberating, or if that's the right word, absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean, he played that night and we were just, the whole place was just like, we were silent. It was like, it transcended us to a different level. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share. So thank
you. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I'm so glad you did the self-tape. And I think that's really cool that, when you hear your own voice telling you these things versus like somebody else, right? It sounded like you had a pretty profound experience listening to yourself speak your own affirmations versus having somebody else tell you how cool you are.
Oh, totally. And it's different from, I would say these things, I have stuff in front of me and I would say them out loud, but I don't know. It's just a difference. It's almost like that musical note, it takes you to a different place. And I even put in there, I'm a money magnet. So I know Ego's not on here, but I was like, and the first time I heard it, I was like, I'm like, nope. I'm receiving that. So, yeah.
Love it. You know what? Going back to what we keep saying, we all need reminders. And so these calls, these sessions, this group all reminds us to keep our head in the game. So
yeah.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks.
Adrian, did I see Adrian's hand up and then down? Adrian, did you have something to say? Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, it's just a quick thing. Your presentation was really good. It was really interesting. And as you were talking about the surrounding, you give off a field. As a lot of you know, I've got a twin brother. And believe it or not, we've had it where we think the same thing without even looking at each other. We can ring up and say, oh, I'm doing this today. Oh, well, I've been doing it. And it's just weird. There's so much uncertain we don't know and how positive things can be. It's proof. Me and my brother, we think alike and we could be miles and miles apart. It's just really strange how the world works. And your presentation is brilliant. And I just want to say, yeah, what comes out of you does affect other people. And as I've proved it with my brother, he's felt things, bad things, many, many years ago. He was in hospital and I felt it. I didn't know anything about it until my father rung me and said, oh, do you know Andrew's in hospital? And I went, I had a feeling, but I didn't really believe what it was all about. And it was. And it's just weird how things do connect. All right, yeah, me and Andrew's twins, but I'm sure it affects people who are not related because of your presentation. And I just want to share that. It does let off a lot of things, what you don't realize. And that is a true story.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you. That the twin thing is amazing, right? And I think, we can get into a deeper level with things like quantum entanglement and particles that are once together and then separate, share information in real time, right? And so you get that experience of, somebody pricks their finger or whatever, 1,000 miles away and you feel it, right? It's pretty amazing, or you feel those emotions. Thanks for sharing that, man. That's super cool. Jody, what's up, Jody?
Hey, great talk today. I love the science. It just feels so good. Stretch our brains. And that's a surprise that happens every day, that somebody says something that just makes our brain go, yeah, I either remember that or that's really cool. And I love the connection between the vibrations and the brain waves, heart waves to Nicola. And we've talked about vibration and meditation. And I didn't know if anybody has heard of the bioresonance devices, electromagnetic therapy, not to the point of shock therapy, but I have a massage therapist that's a healer and she has a machine. And they say that there's research that goes back 50 years, 75 years about these different vibrations they can measure like this in your body, but it has to do with how your organs are functioning and what's happening in your body. And that if you emit the proper vibration frequency for a certain amount of time, it will attack that virus in your body, and there are books on the cancer. It's insane. And I admit, I try crazy things, and I do have one. And you can program it to do different things. There's hundreds of thousands of frequencies, and people create these. It's open source. And if whatever is happening, whether it's I'm not sleeping, whether it's I'm overeating, or whatever it is, and if I run those programs for a certain amount of time, it really works. And it's not just psychosomatic. The vibration works, and it's different. And it's not like here's one set thing everybody does. They have machines that they test the vibration through your body to see what's deficient, what needs help, what vitamins, and it's pretty fascinating. And I love the way it connected to everything you talked about today. So I thank you for the visuals. I think that's really, really great. I do a lot of screenshots, so I can get back. But
thanks
for today.
Thanks for the share. Thanks for acknowledging the visuals, because really that kind of stuff really, really helps me. You know, I've seen some of that bioresonance stuff, and it blows me away. What you just said about curing cancer and viruses and all kinds of things. I remember reading something not too long ago that essentially assigns, and it's probably what you're talking about, where, you know, it assigns a frequency to various different illnesses, right? And so you can cancel out those illnesses with overlaying frequencies, right? It's kind of the concept of replacing negative thoughts with positive ones, and they cancel each other out in the waveform, things like that. Very, very cool. Thank you. Thanks, Jody. Cyril, what's up, buddy?
Hi, guys. Well done. I love that talk today. Well, I love it. I love that. I'm a big science guy too. I love my science, although I've been more biased towards the body. And although I must admit, I love psychology. So, but actually, I've got a few things to say, even on that came up, and one on what Jody said. Now, I did a nutrition course, a 2-year nutrition course before I went to uni to study. And one of the tutors on that course, who originally I think was in athletics and stuff, when he became basically, he didn't actually go to uni, but that course the idea was that it'd take you through basically what you needed. And it was quite a good course, but it wasn't affiliated with any universities or anything. But one of the things that happened was that when he became a nutritionist, he found this machine that NASA used to use for their astronauts, and he used it within his practice. Basically, it worked on resonance. The idea was that it would put a charge through your body, and depending on what came back, the machine could tell what was wrong with you. And this is NASA, and this is years ago. I mean, this is over 10 years ago. I mean, definitely over 10. So that's an interesting one. Jody, you just reminded me of that. So this stuff's already out there, and it's been out there for quite a while, but not very many people know about it. So there's that one. The other one, there's another one that came to me was that I remember watching, I don't know, it was a film, and it was talking about the fact that the people who wish unwell to others, the fact that they have these negative thoughts is more likely to do damage to them than it does to the other person. Now, I took that to heart because I'm not sure why I took it to heart, but for me, I realized a long time ago that my negative thoughts don't do me any good, and the fact that they destroy me, and they definitely destroy your life because they basically impose limitations on you. So that was one part of my emphasis to try and deal with them when I started in my 20s. But that one is an interesting one. I found it really interesting in that the fact that because to hold negative thoughts about someone else, they're still within you. And also the brain doesn't always, there's an interesting thing about the brain, the unconscious mind, is that you and I there isn't much difference. So if you're saying something about somebody else, where there's an I there or there's a you, is really a small particulate of what is going on. So I think thinking ill of others is as bad as thinking ill of oneself. I mean, depression is well known. It's well known that there seems to be a correlation between depression and cancer. Well, also the fact, I mean, sorry, actually, I'll change that slightly. It's well known that depression depresses the immune system, and that cancer seems to be correlated with depression. So, and I've seen that in my life with my mother, and then other women around her who had depression, who had similar stuff. So I'm not saying it's completely, that I'm not saying that that's the only thing. I'm saying that's a part of what can happen. So,
Zero Man, thank you for that. I think everything that you're saying resonates with me. I appreciate your insight, because when you start talking, like I know that you appreciate this stuff, and sometimes when I'm putting together these little sessions, I totally think of you like, oh, Cyril's totally gonna love this. So thanks.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely loved it. Well done.
Thanks so much for your share. And yeah, man, our thoughts affect our health, right? This is what we've been learning since day one on these calls. All right, we're gonna close out with Virginia. And thank you, Virginia. How are you this morning today?
I'm doing well.
How much snow did you get up there?
You know, I think we got about maybe between 5 and 7 inches. But the streets are pretty clear, so we're good. But we did get quite a few up where I am, which is a northeast suburb of Denver. So not into the mountains or anything, kind of east. But I wanted to express, and I was going to put it in the chat, but it's too much to type, how angry all of this stuff makes me. It makes me so mad. All this, and I'll tell you the reason it makes me so mad is because I'm mad at myself. I read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, easily 15 years ago, had the CDs. I've gotten The Secret, Law of Attraction. I know Bob Proctor. I've given out those DVDs as Christmas gifts like 10 years ago. So I'm really mad that even though I have all of this foundation, I still forget to follow it. You know, I still forget the words. What is it? Says something about the tongue, and no man can tame the tongue, or something goes along with, you know, and then guard your heart above all else. Out of it rises the desires of your heart. So I really want to start just posting, you know, all over my desk, all over my walls, these things to remind me and concentrate, because yeah, I really, really, really am angry, and I'm angry at myself.
Virginia, don't be too hard on yourself, right? This is what we're doing here. This is why we're here, right? To remind ourselves of these things. We all need reminders. Even our friend and mentor, John Lavenia, says it over and over again, that we need constant reminders. So don't get too down on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. And I know you're half being facetious, because we're not going to let you be, you know, too mad at yourself.
Well, I just got to get rid of all that. Okay, so recognize it, move on. Let's not keep going and circling around the same mountain over and over again. You know, let's put that stuff behind us. And I really love, was it Nicola that said about the rice? I want to do that. I want to do that with my family. When I want to ask, was it an open jar or a closed jar? Must have been an open jar.
Closed.
I think it's a closed
It
jar.
was. Okay, so just 2 closed jars of rice. I've seen that experiment done like in middle schools with plants, and the one plant withers and dies within, you know, a matter of weeks, and the other one survives and blooms. So it's just very, very fascinating. I'm going to do that with my family. And we should all have been taught that at a much earlier age. So thank you, Stuart, for letting me close out the section. As always, it was a wonderful, wonderful session, and one that I will be watching again.
Guys, technically that would have to be a closed jar, because if you had an open jar, any odd bacteria or mold could then fall in the jar. So the idea is that you have a completely sterilized jar beforehand, so that it's not something in the jar that might cause it. And also, if you're speaking to an open jar, the breath that comes out of your mouth is likely to go in, and therefore that would contaminate it. So it has to be closed.
Closed system.
Makes perfect sense. Makes
That's
perfect
awesome.
sense. And she may have said that. I was just working at the same time I was listening. Thank you.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see pictures of everybody's jars, but I also want to see pictures of people talking to their jars. Somebody posted in the chat earlier about, maybe it was Janet, about how, like, when we talk to plants, right? We talk about talking to plants and the rice and all this, but like to each other, to our children, right? This is how, we can help to ensure that we, raise and help to raise strong, healthy children by giving them good, positive feedback and love and things like that. And then what was it? Gail posted something earlier I was catching in the chat that sometimes negative things tend to resonate with us more than positive things, right? And I don't know if anybody can attest to that or has had experiences with that. But there's something called the negativity bias. And I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but you can look it up. And it's this concept that negative thoughts have more of a tendency to stick around in our brains, where we tend to be a little more attracted or easily attracted to negative thoughts. And a lot of that goes back to our primal defense mechanisms and things like that. These are messages, these are signals that get sent to our brain to make sure that, we stay alive and things like that. But we tend to, get a little twisted version of that. Anyway, you guys, it is 6 after the hour, and I am so grateful to have been able to share some information and some of my thoughts and feelings with you guys. And I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for participating and sharing all your cool insights and experiences. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And let's see, we've got Ivier this evening. Is this the maiden voyage of Ivier's corporate career? What did I call it? Boardroom Confidential, right? But I think we've got Ivier, and that is 5 p.m. Eastern time. And so join us for Ivier's session tonight. And then I will be doing another session of Adventures in Mindset this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern as well. So make it a great day, you guys. Get stuff done. Keep your eye on your thoughts and your mindset, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.